Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Brothers and Sons. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Justin.
And I'm Nathan.
And yeah, Brothers and Sons exist to fill the gap, stand in the gap for young men who are looking for a better way of living, I would say. We want to raise the standard of living. We want to raise the quality of life for young men. And Nathan and I have found like a true source for life, and we want to talk to you guys about that and help you guys find that path as well. And so yeah, follow along the journey with us. Our DMs, our email, and it's all open to you guys to reach out to us. And yeah, we want to help you guys find community. This isn't a program we're trying to sell you on. It's more of a, hey, we are telling you where we're at in life, and also telling you what's helped us, saved us from a lot of things. And yeah, know that we love you, know that we partner with you, and yeah, we are in this with you. So
Yeah. I think we got a really interesting topic for today. We started a series last week, as you guys might know, called Redemptive Health, which was to look at health more holistically than just fitness, which guys so often associate health with. So we wanted to see health as fitness, so keep that as a part of it, but also nutrition and diet, also mental health, also sleeping and caffeination. But before we spend a few weeks going through those and sitting with a couple of young men to talk through those practically, we wanted to talk, yes, about health, but more generally about how to posture yourself for change. We think in our own lives, a lot of these do require change. They do require surface level change and deeper change. How do you actually do that? I mean, that's something that there's so many books or so many guides about. And although the best prescription is usually personalized, we want to talk about the things that have made it easiest for us to change our lives, and on a conceptual level, but also on specific levels. So what JP and I did, which is not something that we have not seen each other's notes for it. We tasked each other to come up with the 5 ways that we've best changed our lives. So there's 10 between the two of us. And the whole idea is that we'll go one by one. And if we happen to have the same one, it will essentially be instead of 2, it'll become 1. So if JP were to say, to do this, you'd have to do this program. I'm guessing neither of us have a specific program, but to do this program, suddenly we'll both cover that. And so, besides going through all these hugely impactful ideas, we actually are curious to see how many different ones we have from each other and how many are the same. We haven't talked about it, but I'd be willing to venture there's going to be some overlap, and then
Definitely.
some things that are different too. So, and also I think there's a note in that as well, because there's a lot of things that are going to be specific to the challenges, and you'll see that when we go through fitness, when we go through nutrition, when we go through these things. But there's a lot of things that are the same. So I think JP's going to pick our first one.
Yes. So the first one I wrote down for mine is identity shift.
Oh, I don't have that on
Okay,
mine.
all right.
Okay,
Sweet. So
it's unique.
yeah, I have here it's not enough to have a far off dream of who you want to be.
Mm,
I think instead you have to start focusing on, instead of who you want to be, change the present language. So instead of saying oh yeah, I hope I can do this one day, or I will, or things like that, you want to change it to I can. This is who I am today. This is who I embody myself to be. I think you have to believe this is who you are. You have to believe that. And I know that sounds a little cheesy, but that is what's worked for me as well.
yeah.
So I'm not coming from a point of view that's hey, this might work for you. But yeah, I think identity is a huge one. You have to believe in this endless untapped potential is what I wrote is. And that's something I've been thinking about for the past few years is, what is that untapped potential? We all have that. And I think how you speak to yourself matters.
So you had some hesitation there. And by the way, I think identity is such a big one. It's not one of the 5 I put, but I do it is a big notable consideration on mine. But you also had some hesitation. Was that having to do with the manifestation, kind of you almost are believing something that's untrue that sometimes, or where was that hesitation coming from?
Oh, I don't know if I had hesitation, but Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But like, do you think like how do you like speak an identity over yourself?
yeah. Yeah, no, that is, yeah, I don't know if I truly believe in all the manifestation things, but and I think speaking positively over myself has been a weird experience over the years. Like it's not something that comes naturally for me.
Mm.
I find it actually that's a good question because it makes me think of I it's so easy for me to speak to a friend positively or speak identity to a brother or
Yeah.
a friend or a sister, whoever. But when I think of man, how can I and so yeah, I can help somebody else change. But how do I change? How do I speak to myself? I was telling Nathan before we hit record is I did something in front of the mirror for the first time this morning. I probably did it one time before, but just speaking positive affirmation over myself, just saying like who I am, how I should be seeing myself. It just shifted how I approach the day today, honestly. So
Yeah. Well, like, what are some of the ones that you speak over yourself?
yeah, I say I am fearfully and wonderfully made, which is a Bible verse. I struggled a lot with body image and just like self-image, how I see myself in the mirror. So I think a lot of positive language
Mm.
around how I see myself externally, and it comes from the language of my heart, right?
Yeah.
And so, but even other things that hey, I am capable of doing hard things. I think that is something I wouldn't have said that was my identity a few years ago. Like I kind of thought I could do that,
Yeah.
like one day in the future, but then embodying myself as present day, like, hey, yes, I can do these things and I'm going to do it and I'm going to face this because that is who I am.
Mm.
Yeah. And other times I'm just kind of in this moment of like, I am a cowboy. That's who I want to be and that's who I am. And that's what people call me sometimes is because that's what I embody, and
Yeah.
or Sonic King. So it's really like, I think it's one thing you say it over yourself, but also two, to step into that and
Mm.
be that person and show up every day. So
I mean, I think part of the reason I asked too is because when I was thinking through those, I didn't put identity, and I think one of the big drivers is like I've done better over the last few years about throwing off bad identities. Like when that thought comes, as it does for a lot of guys, like you're looking, even for like, I just did a body scan this week. And so you can actually like statistically look at something that is like true. But you can also very easily speak of yourself like, oh, I'm fat, like I'm whatever it is, right?
yeah,
I think I've done a good job of shoving those off or like, oh, what an idiot. Like I feel like I do that a lot less. But what you're also talking about is like identity being like something new, something like beyond that you're trying to like bring in. And I don't think I've done a like how do you practically like I'm a very like type A type person. How do you practically like do that? You said it's like the second time maybe ever that you've done this.
yeah, yes. I think a lot of it starts up here, like starts
Mm.
mentally. If you're listening, point to my head, but I think you're also on the money though because a lot of this identity is also reversing the language of hey going from negatively speaking to yourself, which
Mm.
I've done so many times, which still creeps up definitely, to okay, well if I'm going to speak life over like negative language, I want to replace it with something.
Hmm.
And so you might not be saying it in front of the mirror like I did, and that is so rare for me. But I have started to, at least internally in my mind, think, hey, you can do this.
Yeah.
These thoughts are fear-based thoughts that you had in the past. Like things that, hey, you're not capable, or you can't do this, or you don't belong in that room, or you can't write that book, or you'll never, you know, win the battle of like over food or whatever it may be. So um, I think you have to just start replacing those things. You could write them down, if you're listening, or even you're asking like practical ways. Um, but I think it is a mental shift.
Yeah.
As maybe that's not super. You might not feel like that's tangible, but I think that's what's helped for me.
Okay. So like this week, if because I'm doing this course that our church offers, and I think a big part of it is this, where they try to like replace and like allow you to like bring God into, but like open up different parts of you that you've not really opened up. Like what would be like almost an assignment? Maybe that's a little cheesy, but I'm kind of curious what you would prescribe to me.
Yeah, and I've done that course, and it's incredible. I think you have to be real with yourself and face those things. So if it's a fear, you have to face it, and you have to say like, this is what it is. Before you say,
like what's an example of that?
yeah. So maybe before you say like, hey, maybe you've struggled with laziness, right? Maybe somebody listening is like, oh,
Me?
man.
No,
I'm not talking to you because I think you're.
I may struggle with laziness, but
I know I do. So I think for me, okay, well, I know there's roots there. There are root issues there growing up. Just the way I grew up created this environment for certain things, because nobody is just lazy for laziness' sake, right? There's a lot of root issues there. So I think a way you could do that, implement that into your week is, hey, this is what it's been like my whole life. You don't have to get to the root, because I think if you start like, oh, what is the root? Why am I this way? That's not the point of this. The point of this is like, hey, this is what it is. Address it head on. Like, this is what it is. I know this is what it is, but I want to take this other way now. I want to go this way. And so I realize this is what it is. I put language to it. Sometimes that's also a scary part for me. It's like, I don't want to admit that. Once you admit it, it's like, oh. So it's true. And so I've really, even like I journaled it last night, like, I'm struggling with laziness. I was like, oh man, how can I say that? But I did, and it's real. And now, where do you want to go, Justin? You know, like what path do you want to take now? And how can you get there? You don't need to worry about like all those steps. You just need to change the course. You just need to put your feet in another direction. And so I would say you can't change that identity if you're not like willing to accept like where you're changing from, or where you're leaving, what you're leaving behind.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just like writing this like all the motivational quotes you've ever heard, you know, that high lasts you like a day. So I don't know if that helps though.
I'm going to try that this week.
Yeah.
Like pick something to address. But that's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, is it my turn?
It is your turn. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a good one. I also want to separate it from, we talk about community a lot. I want to table that. Because I also, when I was like picking the order of this, I wanted to pick out in order the easiest things to get access to. Because I think there's a lot of things that have been very developmental in my life that there was like a certain barrier of entry to get into that. So I tried to like go to the lowest barrier of entry.
That's good.
And I think this is like a 0 barrier of entry item, which is to change your environment. Was that
my number 2 is environmental. Okay, well that's our first.
Your first overlap right there.
Overlap, yeah.
So I brought a couple stats on this and a couple of stories. Like for one is like 43% of daily behavior is automated and tied to physical context. Living near green spaces reduces obesity and cardiovascular disease. Leaving an environment that was associated with a bad habit across 9 different studies over tripled the rate of success. And then there's these 2 quotes I love. It says like, these are both from like studies. When people change environments, old habits break and intentional behavior takes over. And then people with high self-control succeed, not by resisting temptation, but by choosing better environments. I don't totally agree with, you can still resist temptation, but I think people abuse that thought when it's so much easier often to just change your environment. It's like, as I was going through mine, number 1, getting out of your own apartment. Oh man, like there are so many guys that love to be in their apartment alone. I have never heard a guy say, man, you know what's been really good for my health lately? Being in my apartment alone.
Yeah.
Or like being in my house alone. One of the guys that like I look up to a lot, I was talking to him about like my desire to get married, and he was like, never get a studio apartment. Always have a roommate.
Wow.
And he was saying like, because it's hard to go from a vote of one where you make every decision to then having a person who's your equal partner.
Wow.
So like, and getting out of your apartment, like I honestly think a lot of guys that struggles with pornography or binging. I mean, even when you hear the two of us talking about binging, what's like the number one prerequisite is like, we're in our apartment house alone
Totally.
with access
Yeah.
to these bad things. And that is exactly where temptation wants you. So get out of your apartment. Try to spend as little time. This is something Scott Galloway says. Spend as little time in your apartment as you can. You really don't need to be there much outside of sleeping. So I'd say that's one. I'd also say the gym. Like, just going to the gym. I think like even, like when I was telling my story, like people were like, well, how did you start learning the right information? How did you do these things? I was also like, I was in a gym. Like when you're there, you just pick up on more.
Yeah.
Like so many people, like they're working out at their in-home gym. You're just not gonna get the same effect.
Yeah.
And then I had on here church. People always like want to like be more holy, be more spiritual. You know how you like just go to a church, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna find the perfect church on day one. You may not, maybe you do. But like you have a lot higher chance of hitting that in a church versus watching a sermon online.
Yeah.
And like even if you're like non-denominational and like there's a Anglican church near you, I'd go.
Yeah.
And then I had one more here, which is going to a class. This is something I've done a lot in the past, whether it was like a Bible study class or it was like a vocational ministry class or like I've taken a lot of classes for my career. Just going there and being around other people, like it's just, I'm like I'm almost in like a position where I'm expecting change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
I think
it's easier.
I think about like a lecture or a college class where you're all there for the same reason, so you can bounce ideas off each other. Your heart or mind is like, hey, I want to accomplish this thing. That's great. That's so different than the environment, like a bit different than what I wrote. But I agree with that because as I love the gym, I love going to church. Like those are the environments that are so ingrained in my life today.
Yeah.
I'm curious, you said those stats and you said they're pretty accessible, but I do wonder for the person who cannot put themselves in an environment because there's one thing you wrote or read, someone with high self-control can like change, they don't like struggle because their environment is so great.
Yeah.
I guess what would you say for a man who's listening or a young person who's listening that it's like, hey, like I can't change my external environment. Like how do I create the change if I can't like really get out of like my house or get out of this dorm or hey, maybe they live with their parents or something like that and they're, yes, one day they will be able to maybe afford to change their place. But right now they're like, I don't know.
I hear that. And maybe this is the type A nature in me, but I almost think that that's not true for our target audience. Like who's our target audience across like everything? Who we intentionally go after seems a little bit odd, but like who we intentionally speak to and also who listens to us is men who are 18 to 35 in the United States, highest volume in the Northeast coast. I mean, there are so many like libraries, like being outside. I know it's not as accessible right now to be outside, but like most guys are making enough to get like access to some like free areas. They can pay to go on the transport to get there.
Okay.
Being
that's
in a
good to hear,
library.
though. So yeah, I think that's something that I think is good to hear. Just so it's not just for the person who's like smack middle of like Manhattan. You could do this anywhere. No. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I remember I was talking to one guy who was like struggling with pornography, and I told him because he worked remote, I was like, you should just start working from coffee shops and then pay for a WeWork. And he was like, he did the math, and he was like, man, WeWork costs like $400 a month.
Yeah.
Coffee shops are expensive too. And I was talking to him, I was like, the way you described this was like life or death. Is your life or death worth $400 a month? Additionally, like he was working a job. I'd be willing to bet that if you went to your hiring manager and you said, you like showed them the statistics on remote work and the efficiency draw it has, for most people, especially like young men, and then you're like, I'm going to go do this. It's $400 a month. Would you pay for it? And it will probably unlock 10% extra efficiency gains, which if you're making $60,000 a year, which is 67,000 is the average salary in the United States, 10% gain is $6,700, right? A $400 a month is $4,800, which means you're going at a deficit of $1,900. That means that by doing this with no extra work, the company's just gained $1,900 in value off you. I mean, there's ways you can spin that. That's definitely harder to have that conversation, but my point is, I would challenge you that it's not that accessible.
Yeah. So I like that. I like the word challenge there, because I think so often it's easier to just be like, well, I tried, which is, you probably didn't.
No.
You just thought about it. You thought of how difficult it is. So yeah, I like the pushback there.
You have a great excuse you've never told anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Just yourself.
Exactly.
You happen to agree with yourself a lot. I agree with myself all the time.
Well, it seems like we agreed on our points.
What was your environmental?
Yeah.
This is different.
I wrote, your environment not only shapes you, but it's the driving force. And I did write, it starts from your very room, and like your bedroom or your home, the place you spend the most time. And I think at the end of the day, when I go back to my room, I think of like, okay, how do I create an environment that fosters change? I remove distractions. Like for me, a clean room equals clean mind. And so, and maybe that's just the kind of person I am, but truly when my room is clean, or when I'm putting things in where they should be, my mind, I feel like, just is more clear. But also, I wrote that you should place things within your vicinity that shows things about your new identity, shows your path to change. Like, so let's say if it's like a book you want to read, or like, hey, you want to journal more, put like those things out there, like put them on your table, like put some pens, I mean, sometimes I'll even put like plants or flowers on their table. It's just something to give you like a reminder every morning, every night before you go to bed. So yeah.
But that's interesting. So give me an example from, I've been to your house and in like the room you sleep in all the many times. But now I'm trying to think back at like what do you do to do that? Like trying to think of some examples.
Yeah. Well, one, I like to keep my room super clean.
Definitely I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have like, I don't have, my room isn't like flooded with things. It's not noisy at all. It's pretty like bare bones. I just have a bed, my table, and a bookshelf. But on that table, I have like books that I'm reading. I have my journals. I have, my bookshelf full of like things I really like enjoyed over the years. And then I'm trying to think what else. Also like things that I think describe me, right? Like, so, or things that I identify or like love. So I'll have like my watch and my rings, and it's mostly like notebooks and books that I feel like, hey, like remind me to, and my Bible. Those are like top of the table for me to see every morning, every night before I go to bed, every morning when I wake up. And it really does remind me, like, hey, this is part of my rhythm now. This is part of my new rhythm. It's part of my new way of living, is to do these things. And actually something that you told me to do is put some like Post-it notes around your room. So I started doing that too, which is a newer thing. I think I implemented that this year within the past few months. But once again, environment starts in your room, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a mirror in my room, and I put a little Post-it on that affirms like who I am, my identity. And I think I wrote one of the Post-its. There's not a lot of them. There's a few, but one of them is like, this is going to be a great year. Like, you just got to believe that. It's over the room, as corny as that sounds, but yeah, I think the place where you start and end your day is kind of your safe haven too.
Yeah.
And so making that environment a place where kind of clings to that new life. And then I wrote, beyond your room is the environment of people you surround yourself with. So like the people you run with are either going to believe in what you believe in, or they're going to make your dreams smaller. and I have some, like, I think community is something else, but I just have this, like, I've seen this happen in my life where as my environments have changed and the environment of people have changed, your dreams grow or they get smaller. And I've been fortunate enough to now be in a place where I'm like, my dreams are getting bigger and bigger. Like, I have people like Nathan, and other friends and other people in my life who really believe in that. But also, I think it's like the environment of people you can look up to and surround yourself with, like leaders who are creating change in their own sphere of influence, or maybe the place of influence you want to be in. And so, yeah, I think that like-mindedness in environment is so crucial, or it gives you an edge, if anything.
Definitely, because you can also see other people doing it around you.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I think it makes sense. Okay, it's your turn.
It is my turn. So I will go to 3. I wrote, comfort zone is where dreams go to die. I think this is a big one for me. I have lived my life in the comfort zone, and I still sometimes do. But I remember this one time, come a long way, by the way, but I remember this one time a friend told me a few years ago, that, like, I just have to get out of that comfort zone. He just saw the change that I could make and the potential in me when I didn't see it myself. Like, I was almost shy to that,
Yeah.
or kind of feeling coy. But I just wrote, he saw, like, what I could make out of my life, and I think why that's hey, how can you make, like, what do I mean when I say you can make a change out of that, is like, ask yourself questions like, hey, what would it look like if things remained the same in a week, a month, 6 months, a year? Like, if nothing changed, what would happen in a year if nothing changes? And then I wrote, like, what relationships, dreams, or opportunities suffer if you don't leave the comfort zone? There's this almost like real, tangible pain and tension that you feel from staying in the same position, and also the fear of, like, changing, doing something new.
Yeah.
But I think in that tension for me is where I found the most life.
So you're saying, like, almost find adventure.
Find adventure. It doesn't have to be as grand as adventure, but I think if you see your life as everything is adventure, yes. But I think that's where you find, like, the river of this, like, stream of purpose and freedom. Is you just have to get out of your comfort zone. I think for me, practically speaking, a few years ago, I decided to read 50 books. And that was coming out of my comfort zone. I was trying to teach myself a bigger lesson than just being a person who reads. Something that's so hard. And today it's something like even public speaking, or writing. I'm, like, writing more. I'm sharing my art to people more. But none of this would have, you don't get to the fruit without, like, getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we would have met if I didn't take the chance to leave my hometown to go into this New York City church, to meet you through community, to go into that community group, which seemed scary at first, but it was outside of my comfort zone.
Well, I think that's also just, like, the nature of change. Like, I feel like that is, like, everything. Like, people will be like, well, I'm one of those people that really doesn't like change. Like, no, nobody likes change, right? Like, people like sometimes the feeling that change gets you, that kind of like dopamine, but nobody actually, like, I don't really think that many people love change. Whether it's, like, environment, or I feel like everything here, it's like, I think one of the biggest things holding men back is just the unwillingness to change, to do. They kind of, like, are just doing the same thing.
Yeah. I will say there are things that I think are uncomfortable, though. Like, I think there are some changes that I could argue are easier. Like, I could probably go to a new church or find new friends, or start a new job. Or
New friends.
start-
Whoa.
I didn't tell you about that. Or do a new venture, and that would be a change. But I think getting out of your comfort zone is like, oh, this isn't my normal order of operations.
Interesting.
You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
would be like if you came to my writing collective as somebody who doesn't write poetry. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
out of your comfort zone, but you're trying this because,
Is that you're trying to push me to come to the writing collective?
hey man, if you want to, it's absolutely open. But yeah, it's something like, hey, it's like you know what you are capable of,
Mm.
but what are like areas of untapped um, places that you want to go? And we've talked about this, and I'll let you share it when you want to. But yeah, like for me, I know my comfort zone. I know I'm good at expressing my emotions. Like I love talking to people. But what does it maybe look like to think analytically or, think differently,
Yeah.
to process things differently,
You said you're going to let me share it when I'm comfortable. Share what?
Well, okay, maybe I'll just share it. There was this time last year where, Nathan told me that your comfort zone is like you think analytically and you want to be more, also like just more emotional, I guess,
Mm.
which I think is out of your comfort zone.
Oh, definitely.
So, and I wrote the comfort zone thing piece as like more of a, for me, it was like steps I need to take outside of it. I wrote, like I lived in the comfort of my whole life.
Yeah.
But for you to say, and I think I bring that up because I think it's so relatable for most men who are probably not like super emotionally driven men.
No. Yeah. I mean, I joke to people like I maybe shed a tear. Like, oh, it's like, oh man, then you're going to bring me to tears, right? But like, I think I cried once in the last 2 years, maybe.
And I've probably not gone very long without crying. I cry very easily. I tear up very easily. I'm a very emotional person. But I'm saying those are things that are outside of
Yeah.
a man's comfort zone, maybe.
So I'll get more emotional. You get more analytical. We can like trade.
That's not the takeaway here. One person takes away, and that's you. I'm just kidding. But does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying
So it's almost something outside of like the realm of what you would typically do.
totally.
That's
yeah.
out of your nature.
Yeah. I'm not saying like, hey, you apply for a new job and you start that and that's change.
Yeah.
No. I'm saying you reach outside of that,
Mm.
outside of the room of your body, soul, spirit, if so to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I gotta think more about that. I
Yeah.
gotta chew on that.
Come on, chew on it.
Okay, the next
Chew on it
one.
when you're hungry.
The next one I had was humility,
Ooh.
which I think another way to spin this is to accept you don't actually know on something. So a couple stats on this. People hire in, apparently this term was across a ton of different studies, so I'm guessing it's some sort of like metric thing. People hire in intellectual humility, that's the term, invested more effort to learn topics they initially failed at. Study of 261 undergrads found humility positively predicted intrinsic motivation to learn and academic self-efficacy. Studies of high school students, those scoring higher in intellectual humility, had higher self-reported mastery responses and higher teacher-reported mastery responses. And intellectual humility linked to superior information processing. And I got these from like MIT was like one of the biggest studies I pulled this from, which I find really interesting. By the way, we both have pens, and I think there's just like the temptation to write stuff down.
It's really hard on my pants, but
yeah.
to like just
But like into my own, like, I mean, I think about like nutrition has been a big one in the last year. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things that's drawn me to it is accepting I don't actually know what I'm doing in this category.
whoa.
Like I was talking, so I had a meeting with my nutritionist this Thursday, and I was telling her, I was like, I genuinely have, I really don't know what I'm doing in this. Even though I've met with her for like 6 months. So I'm actually starting to understand this because she's giving me books. So I'm starting to, but almost like I'm learning also how much I don't know. Because what I've also discovered through nutrition, like I thought meeting with a nutritionist was going to fix my nutrition problem, but I discovered in humility that there was like a very spiritual and emotional side to it, which I'm now taking courses on that.
Wow.
And I feel like my ambition is to continue to learn. I also think going to the gym, I think one of the things that blocked me from getting into a better shape early was my lack of humility. I also do not think I was a very humble child. I think I mentioned the word cocky in the last episode. I was very cocky. And I still think it's harder for me to do this, but I think easy to do. Like all you have to say is like, I actually don't know what I'm doing on this. Like, let me just go find somebody who does. I also think in my job, like I am known for feedback, and that's what I wanted when I went in. Is like, tell me how you feel about what I'm doing, so that I can correct myself. So taking on like, hey, I don't actually know what I'm doing has made me really strong in that. And then the last one I'd say is like, we talked about mental health on the last episode. And I realized I really didn't have a lot of time spent on mental health. And I feel like I've just been more open to hearing people talk about mental health. Even though I'm still trying to figure out how I approach it, I feel like I'm very open to, I don't really know how to approach this. So, humility, yeah.
I love that you said that, because when you said it at first, I was like, oh, how do you posture yourself for change with humility? But you're so right. I feel like we as men typically are probably thinking like, hey, we know everything. Don't need to tell me anything. But yeah, I found myself also in that place of like, no, can you tell me more? I don't think I'm in the boat of usually like, hey, I know everything. It's more so of like, I'm scared to say that I don't know everything.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But
Which it's actually ironic, because if somebody's talking about something a lot, it typically means they probably have like a better understanding of it. And yet it's those people that instead of like, oh my gosh, this person's talking about it, they probably have a lot of knowledge on it, we're like intimidated. So it's usually those people that we're like, oh, I know what I'm talking about with this.
Yeah.
When that person may oftentimes be the most informed to speak into our lives about it.
yeah.
Like I think about like my nutritionist, like she tells people that she's a nutritionist and they're like talking about their own nutrition. A lot of times they are the people that would be looking for nutrition help. But when they hear she's a nutritionist, they're like, oh, I know nutrition. When that person has like they have the letters next to their name that they could actually give you much better advice. And I'm saying this like pointed to other people. You know who does this like a lot is me. Like whenever I hear somebody's got like credentials, I start like inflating my own ego a lot of the time. And I was realizing as I was writing this, I was like, dumb. Like that's just like it.
It's the Spider-Man meme
Yeah.
pointing at you. It's funny you just mentioned tears. As you were sharing like the humility thing, I was like getting teary-eyed because I'm an emotional guy. But
what was it about it?
just the fact that it's so tender to think of us being like, hey, we don't know. But I think the person who comes to that place of like, hey, I don't know what this is, or I don't know, could you like help me? Could you tell me more? It is so counterculture. It is so counterculture, which I think that is what Brothers and Sons is, hey, we are two brothers who are standing maybe against the grain a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also think like somebody who has a heart that can admit, hey, I don't know this thing. Hey, I humble myself and say, I don't know what this is. Could you help me? You're able to be a sponge. You're able to like actually learn. And those people want to help those people. You know, people want to take their time and be their friend, you know, as opposed to somebody who's like just, I don't know, like showing off their ego. And it's like this battle, you know, between men or between peers or between people or amongst people, whatever. So, yeah. And I can't tell you why that got me teary-eyed because, like I said, I'm an emotional person, so everything gets me pretty weepy-eyed. But I think it's very tender to bring up that point. And I don't think that's something I would have thought of.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. What's your fourth one?
Fourth one. I feel like there's going to be overlap here. I wrote, you got to commit in community.
It is indeed.
Overlap? Okay, sweet. I could go first.
Hit me with it.
I wrote, you got to tell your friends. When you want to change, tell your friends, tell a loved one, tell a community. Like, let it be out there. I wrote, even tell a brother. Share your goals, and then
You can tell one of us.
tell us I would love to hear that. We would love to hear that. I wrote, share your goals and dream together. Right? You got to believe in each other. You know, I think accountability equals visibility. Like it's out there, it's not in the dark. And then there's that saying that's pressure equals privilege. But I think that pressure comes from good community, comes from accountability. So like if you are in community and like you guys aren't growing together and there's no like iron sharpens iron kind of moment,
Yeah.
you're not going to get to that pressure. You're not going to get to that, and you're not going to realize like how much of a privilege it is to, man, I get to do these things. I get to change. I get to experience this like tension. And I also just wrote like you can go far in isolation, but you can go far and wide with friends, with your colleagues, peers, teammates, brothers. So, yeah, I think on days that feel chaotic, as change in life often does feel, you do need a sense of calm. And so, yes, it's a mixture of challenging you, dreaming together, but also being a sense of calm. Like I know when I speak to Nate here, he challenges me. He's also like championing my dreams and my goals, and is like so excited to hear about things that are happening. But also there's a sense of calm that I feel when I'm with my brother, you know. But also gives you a real sense of balance. And I have found that in community, and I trust that you have. And I think it's something you can continue to find in different ways.
Yeah. Do you know what I was also thinking about so I also have community, and I have like some stats and like some stories on this too. But I remember somebody was talking to me about The Great Gatsby, and they're like, I got to be like Jay Gatsby and kind of like go at it alone. And I was like, Jay Gatsby ends up dead at the end of the movie, right?
I've never watched it, but
like a little bit of a foreshadowing there. But like the whole idea is like his solo nature just like spirals and it leads him to a bad direction, and then he gets killed.
Yeah.
Or I think about like the amount of like solo people who are miserable, right? Like always check who's telling you information and figure out how their story is going truly beyond the surface.
Yeah. I think of that quote that's like, or I think it's a quote, I don't want to misquote it, but something like, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go with people, something like that. So I think it's so true in my life of, hey, I wouldn't be here sitting here in front of you guys if I didn't find the people that I have, if I didn't find the relationships that I have. And actually, honestly, that's a good marker for you guys who are listening is, hey, if you are trying to posture yourself towards change, or you're trying to put yourself in a position of change, and you're looking around you and you're like, man, these friends are not the best. Like, they're not really dreaming with me. They're not really believing in this. There's also like sometimes that happens with guys or girls or anybody and you start sharing your dreams, but they're like, meh, that's all right if you think so. Or do you think that could happen? Kind of.
Well, yes. To the people you're talking to, yes. But I'd also say you have to ask why they don't agree with what you're saying. Because I think sometimes community can also be self-correcting.
Yeah, definitely.
Like sometimes you come in and like your goal is like very broken and it's like selfish a little bit.
Totally.
And sometimes your community can like, so I'd also say like, when it comes to community, you want to find a good community that their heart is, I think this is also where we struggle to like speak to without a Christian community, because you want somebody that has your eternal value in order. I'd also say you want somebody that has your long-term interest in order.
Yeah.
So essentially you want to find a community that if you ask them like, why do they believe that? Their answer lines up with your long-term benefit.
Yeah.
Because I think also being in community, you'll get to a point if you're in community enough, I surely have, where you tell them a goal and they're like, that's probably not a good thing to go after.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think that's such a good point. What I was thinking is more along the lines of somebody who just kind of has like a pessimistic view on life. And
that's what I thought you meant. Like I agree with that.
Totally, yeah. And they themselves have pigeonholed like themselves from reaching their potential, reaching their goals.
Yeah.
And so when they hear their friend who's like on this path of like quote unquote greatness or like their purpose and unlocking like what they're supposed to be doing, what God has for them, and they're like, I don't think, I don't know. And it can happen in subtle ways. And I think I just mean take inventory of that. Be like careful with language of, hey, is it what Nate is saying? Where it's like, hey, they're just actually challenging me. They're a good friend. They're looking out for me versus they are putting me down. And it's probably a projection of their own like insecurity and fear, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, like, I even think about when Jesus says this in the Bible, like, I'm gonna not say it in his words, but it was like, so many of you only hang around people that agree with you. But he says, why do that? Even sinners do that. Even the Pharisees, who were like these like religious, like super rule based, didn't really like in the faith, but like everybody like wants to be around people like, like that's not what you're called to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I just one more thing before you say your point is, to what Nathan is saying, if you're in community and they don't agree with you, that is not bad. Like that is a good thing. Actually, some of the most places I've felt most loved is when my friends are telling me, hey, like, I don't know about this one, or dude, you're way off the mark.
Yeah.
That means I know they love me. I know they actually care. And I'm thinking about like brothers in my life who have done that versus like, yeah, totally. People are just like, yes, that's great. Everything you do is great. Like that is not true. Everything I do is not great. So yeah, key difference.
It's kind of like my hesitation with like networks that are based, like when people have a lot of people in their friend group that vote like them, look like them, dress like them, background like them, unless that's truly just the average of the whole area. I find a lot of times that's not the case. Yeah. Like I think it's odd in New York when people are only around people that look exactly like them.
Yeah.
Someone's like, I'm not saying that that's wrong. Maybe they're just like really great friends, but I like the fact that my friends come from different backgrounds and have different stories, and like I find myself very challenged. And I find I think about my coffee club or like my college, like I was in a college community, very different backgrounds from me. Like I love these people, or like my workplace community. Like, man, like they have so improved me and they're so different from me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's such a shame so many people don't get that too.
Totally. Yeah. Nate's one of my favorite people and we look totally different.
Yeah.
We don't dress the same at all.
No. And like even on the stats level, like social isolation has a 32% increased risk of mortality. Ooh. Loneliness doubles the risk of depression.
Talk that.
People who are socially connected have a 50% greater likelihood of survival.
Whoa.
Lonely teens are 22% more likely to get lower grades. Living alone linked to a 32% increase in mortality risk. And social belonging increased college persistence rates, that means graduation rates, by 10%.
Wow. And
that was conducted by Stanford in Columbia.
That's crazy.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Wow.
I like it.
Yeah. Tell me your number 4.
This is actually my third one. Third most accessible. Okay. Sticking to a program. Now, this one I had to like find a couple ways to say it, but so it takes 66 days for a behavior to become automatic. More than 40% of patient medical success or patient sustains significant health risk by ignoring or forgetting their healthcare advice. Hiring a specific plan triples completion rate of difficult goals. I was thinking about this because like I remember when I started to review my finances and I found Dave Ramsey. Man, people were like, Dave Ramsey, like you got to rethink that. But it was by sticking to this program, even though there's a lot of flaws with that program, that got me so far. Because I think so many people, they're constantly switching between things that they never can actually see it through. Wow. Like, even though Dave Ramsey's plan is not, I don't stick to it today. Through it, I was able to build an emergency fund, clear out any bad debt. I was able to save 3 to 6 months of my expenses, start saving 15%. I now save like over 25%, right? But it was not a perfect plan, but it was a plan I could stick to. And so I think so many people, like whether it's like a church plan or whether it's like a fitness plan, they get so obsessed with like the right one. It's often like my mom has this quote like pick and stick, right? You don't have to stick with it for forever,
Yeah.
but pick an amount of time. Like I'm either going to stick with this like fitness plan for a year, or I'm going to like stick with this Dave Ramsey plan until I hit step 4, right? Which is like you're in a more like a posture of saving 15%, right?
Yeah.
Stagely. Like figure out a plan that works. Set like I'm going to stick to this from now where I am till this point, whether it's like time based or like goal based, and just do it. Like
Yeah.
in my firm, I want again. I work in finances. Like this is not financial advice by any means. A lot of clients in every financial field are so often changing how they approach things that they never get to see the benefit of the program, because it's like all these like flash in the pan things. Not I want to change my strategy, and then what happens is like the gains that were at the end of the strategy they were on just get thrown out, and there's a new strategy. That's not good long term. You gotta I would just find a program and stick to it.
Yeah.
And so like if you're looking for a program, like we will find you one that is going to be good, and like you have a higher chance of sticking to that than spending the next weeks trying to figure out the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just going to ask you what, like, let's say you're trying to give me a program to start out my week or my month or my year. What are some basic or fundamental things I should look towards or focus on?
Like how to find a program, or like is there a specific
And what
area?
kind of, just like you said, hey, it's not enough for just like the perfect church program and the perfect gym program. What is maybe for the average person listening, or just somebody who's like, hey, I want to start this tomorrow, March 1st.
Yeah.
Like I want to start this year. What are maybe building blocks of a good program, or what does that look like?
So I would say the best way to do this is to find a bigger problem in your life. I know people love to start with smaller problems, but when it comes to programs, the bigger problems, you can easily find the programs that work for a lot of people. So like, let's go into finances. A lot of guys in this who listen are not going to have a great relationship with their finances, right? There are a lot of programs to do with finances. There are also a few that are really good. So I would say Dave Ramsey. I would say The Money Guy Show. I would say Rich Habits, right? You think about fitness. There's like Bumstead, Chris Bumstead. There is, what are there, like Chloe Tinger? Like that's like a women's program. But just find a program that has worked for other people. Like ask your friends who have are successful in it, like a program. Or find something that has enough basis of proof to seem likely that works for you. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of programs that are built for people who make $1 million plus. That's unless you're hiding something, I don't think either of us are in that category, right? So that's not going to be a good program for you.
I just don't want to tell you. I don't want you to be in this for the money.
I guess you're going to be paying for the rest of our meals going forward. But yeah, just finding somebody who's done it.
So focusing on the bigger, choose one big problem that you have in your life kind of thing. Okay.
And I would say once you pick a nut big enough, you can do better to kind of cancel out some of the noise.
Yeah.
I know this sounds so counterintuitive, but go to the biggest organization. Go to the bigger ones, especially if you're uncomfortable with it. You'll have a better chance of sticking to Dave Ramsey's plan than some one-off rare plan if you don't know much about finances.
Okay.
Once you become stronger at something, you can start to fine-tune your advice to it. For nutrition, this is a great example, right? I didn't know how to do nutrition. There's a nutritionist that my workplace provides. I'm sticking to that program because it's accessible, it's near me, I'm doing it. I'm just going to do what she says because it's she has a base, she had enough quotes of people like me in my workplace that were going through the same program. I'm going to stick to that.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey's programs work for millions of people. You can stick to it.
Okay.
Are there any programs you stick to?
Not particularly, I would say. When you mention church programs, fitness programs, I guess I'm in those spaces, but I don't know if I'm subscribed to a program.
Well, and maybe programs not the right word for it, but even a church, I would consider that as a program. People, again, I'm not against church shopping, but people spend too much time, in my opinion, church shopping,
Yeah.
looking for the perfect church.
Doesn't exist.
The minute you enter it, it's not going to be perfect anymore. And if there's anybody who goes there, it's not perfect church
So
environment.
true.
You want the
So
only
true.
thing, like I would say, like try to find a church that maybe aligns with the direction you want to head in
Yeah.
and doesn't have like huge gaps.
Yeah.
Like have a couple like, oh, do they have like incredibly crazy spending as a church? But outside of that, like I'd jump in,
Yeah.
commit 6 months.
Programs, systems, things that you can kind of model your framework around. Yeah, I like that.
So that'd be one of mine.
Sweet.
Okay, what's 5 on yours?
5. Last one I wrote is start with small steps, daily wins.
I feel like that's something I would have, but please continue.
Well, you don't have it, so
No, it's different from mine.
if you let me.
I plan on keep interrupting you.
So I wrote intentional tiny promises. Change takes time. It's incremental. So you don't want to overpromise and under-deliver. I think this is something that I have really wrestled and struggled with my entire life because I never want to start with small steps. I want to do every big thing possible. Like I want to dream big, make the big decisions, make every change possible today. And if I can't do it today, if I can't crush everything today ever and like also have freedom in everything, it's like, I'm the worst. But that is so one that that's never going to happen. Doesn't help anybody. So yeah, I wrote, this is the one I'm actually working on. And I think the ways I've done that is actually the way I'm doing it this year is I've broken my year into quarters. And so the first quarter being a foundational one. So instead of focusing on all the goals that I want to do, which they're not going to go anywhere, I'm focusing more on the small things, like the foundational things, which is, hey, wake up when you say you're going to wake up. And then you do that one day, you build up to 3, you do it for a week, you do it over months, until it sticks, right? Or, hey, whatever that is for you. So like the things I wrote are like, hey, just work on the book that you said you would work on.
Yeah.
One paragraph at a time, right? It's one page at a time, just one line at a time. Other things I wrote is like pray 5 minutes, like you said you would. And I'm not saying I said that over myself, but I have, told myself that I want to create this rhythm of time with the Lord or time with God. So a slow, consistent discipline over time is better than like 1 or 2 days where you go super hard and you crush like a million goals.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Makes me think of that quote by Eugene Peterson. It's like sanctification. You can replace this with development. It's just long form obedience in the same direction.
Yeah. So yeah, I wrote go slow, be consistent, stay on the path. So I think that's an agent of change for me, and that is my last one. But yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's like I have a model that I use in my life, which is like I separate like one-time actions and like habits, and I slowly increment it. You've seen my board on this. I slowly increment in these changes to my lifestyle.
Yeah, I think a lot of it I learned from you recently too. Like the way you've built out like your daily, monthly, over time. You reminded me like it's not in the crushing everything from the first day. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But it's the incremental, and something you've shown me is like the daily tracker, just adding 1 day. Okay, now I see I reached 30 days.
Yeah.
Straight, or 60 days or whatever. So
I actually, for those that I'll have to share this. I've shared it with a lot of people, but I use a sobriety tracker on this because what those apps do is they like count out from when you reset it last to track how long I've stuck to like a new habit. So like one I'm doing right now, I don't have my phone on me, but there was like I do so many of them. How am I forgetting? Like one's like this game I used to play on my computer sometime. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I set it in my sobriety tracker to no longer do that. And I check in how long I've done. And I'm on day 64 on that. And largely like my desire has largely gone away at this point, which makes sense because it's like 66 days to form a lifestyle change. And then I reset it. And it's like you become more understanding when you reset things too.
Yeah.
Because you also realize how hard it is to implement small changes.
Yeah.
So like so many people I think set big changes and do not realize what they're actually setting.
Yeah.
Like this is something I see like a lot of times even in work. Like people are like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then they don't realize like what they've really said. They don't realize how massive of a thing they've like committed to.
Yeah.
And so they don't prepare for it well.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote this one as my last one because it's something I feel overwhelmed with constantly, if I'm being completely honest. Like I always feel overwhelmed by all the things I have to get done. And so so now, and when I say now, I literally mean like yesterday. I'm trying to tell myself like, hey, just focus on where you're at. Like, for example, I was driving yesterday and I'm thinking of like all the things I have to do. But I felt this like nudge of, hey, you're just be present right now. And then when you get to the next thing, just be present there. Just do one thing at a time. And then like, yeah, those intentional tiny promises you make to yourself, one, it keeps you in this like sphere of like tenderness towards yourself, where you're not like destroying this machine that you think you are, versus like, oh, I'm a human being with a brain that is like beautiful, it's capable, has all these like neural pathways, but it's not hey, like this wiring is wrong, I gotta do better, so I am trying to find myself more away from the overwhelmingness and more like the over doing it and the anxiety of having to do everything right now, and not even just like enjoying it one thing at a time, but just taking it one thing at a time. So,
Well, that's a good one. I mean, no surprise. There's nothing you said here that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're about to disagree. You sound like you're about to come in.
Oh, it wasn't like I was disagreeing, but I was saying like,
hit me. A good friend would challenge me on something.
But I also think that you can also see in what we're currently working on, why we ranked them in the way that we did.
Yeah.
Like I would say that I didn't think to do the small things above big things. And I think part of the reason behind that is because like that's always been the way I've done it. And so I think like for me, I often need bigger changes to like inspire me to get up. Versus like you're often very quick to do these big changes and they can crush you a lot. I've set some big changes and I'm like, oh, it's like really exciting, but I don't do that a ton. Yeah. I think it's also like personalized. I think you can apply any of these and you'll end up in a really great shape.
Yeah.
Also figure out what's best for you. Because I was thinking about it, like changing your environment is a pretty big change. And then we're also saying small change. And I was like, that's kind of like somebody can listen to that and think like we're almost showing two different sides of the same coin versus it's like, I think for a lot of guys, you do need to change your environment.
Yeah.
But if it's in your nature to change your environment, maybe getting outside of your comfort zone, investing deeper into your environment.
Yeah. I think about what you said though, like the 66 days to make a change or a habit or something like that. I think you don't get there unless you do the small steps. Like it is a literal small, like it's an actual step. So I think that was like the framework behind, because I do also, I operate from like a grand vision point of view, like you said for yourself. Like that is also how I see it. And I can't get out of bed with just like, oh, if I just wake up, I'm crushed. No, I have to have this driving force. Yeah. But to get there, it takes consistency and discipline and the boring work over time. And then you're like, I'm doing this. I'm doing the things I said I would do. Yeah. And so, hey, if you are a man who's like just crushing every single thing ever, this podcast is probably also not for you. So yeah.
Okay. Should I go on my fifth one?
Oh, you're on 5. Okay.
This is my last one.
Okay.
Going through all the other ones. So this one was hard to write too, because I think too many people do this, and this is something that if you do it well, it ends up really well. And if you do poorly, it can like tear you down, which is seeking a mentor or an exceptional case study. So like here's some stats on this. Like study of 220 high school students found that students that sought help from authority figures had higher chances of graduation and success. 94 independent studies found people who form specific plans to seek and act on feedback achieve goals at higher rates. coachability is a fundamental determinant of learning and performance enhancement. That's like a coach from, I think it's from football or a major sport. This is a hard one to put, but it's like you want to find an extreme in what your goal is, and then you can kind of glean from that person or somebody who's going to invest in you as a mentor. But you have to be really careful about who you put on that position. Because if you put in the right person, it can be like breathing life into you. And I'm talking about, this is somebody that you could actually ask about specific situations you're currently going through. Like you can do that in community, but a lot of times your community are people that are similar to you in what they're going through at an age, like certain maturity level. I'm talking about finding somebody that's like a little bit above, like farther along the path than you are by a margin.
Yeah.
And then going to them for counsel on how to do it. And so when I think about like where that's had a huge impact on my life, like my faith has been a big one on that. Like somebody who's been, and we're going to talk a little bit about faith, but like somebody who's been walking on that journey for a long time, speaking into your life, where they are in a relationship that with Jesus, with God, where you'd want to be, telling you and like talking into your life can be really powerful. I also know a lot of people have bad mentors, and these can tear you down. Because like if you're giving counsel, if you're giving authority over your decisions to somebody that's going to give you bad advice, that can be bad. Like I see this all the time with like influencers online, where some guy, like I see this with like a great example of this to me is Scott Galloway, right? He knows a lot of the problems that men are going through, but the things he prescribes are terrible. I think this is the same way with a lot of like influencers, political influencers. I mean, I even think like a lot of like the red pill community for men, I think fall into this category of bad influences. They are willing to address the problem and few are, but then they give terrible advice on what to do about it. Terrible advice.
What do you think? What do you think are some traits to look for in a good mentor?
So I would actually say like they are eternally focused. Like let's even separate the faith aspect for a minute. Stephen Covey has this test you can run on yourself that I think is really brilliant. And the whole idea is like, imagine you died tomorrow, right? And you had a funeral and you have eulogies being done, right? One is by like a family member, one is by a friend, one is by somebody like who you worked with, somebody that worked for you or was like under your authority a little bit, and then somebody who you looked up to beyond like work. You looked up to them like spiritually or emotionally. What would you want them to say about you? And then who in your life is where like, what would you want that to be said about you, and who is embodying those values? Like, I think that's a great example to run, because like, there's a lot of, like, think about that. You would want like loving, kind, sweet. You would never want at your eulogy it to be said that you were harsh and rich, but you're not a great person. And that describes most influencers in those communities. They're harsh and rich and powerful, but they are lonely. They leave negative. They just destroyed whatever they've taken, and they're not loving people.
Yeah.
Because the other part of the eulogy is, imagine that every word had to be true, right? Find somebody that can help you actually close that gap.
Yeah.
So, like, I think about, I've had a couple people in my life, and I'm very careful about who I let into this kind of a position, but I've been able to text these people and be like, I'm going through X, what should I do? And they'll give you advice, and it's like, wow. Yeah. And then a lot of times, to have people in your life to do this, you also have to give them authority, and that's a part of it too.
Yeah. I asked that from a standpoint of personally, like wanting to, or I guess personally not having those kind of mentors who are more along the road, down the road. I think I've seen more of like a peer mentor, or like friends that I really look up to.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years apart, or 5 years apart. So just to even add on to those qualities, I think maybe something I would look forward to in a mentor is somebody who is humble, like we said, like humility. Somebody who says like, hey, I actually don't have the answer for this, but I think I'm like willing to help you find it or like walk in that with you. Because I think the title of mentor is so like high and mighty sometimes. If you take it to your head, you're like, oh, yes, I have this, like, I am great. Like, that's why I get to be this mentor. It's like, no, like, you've lived a lot of life. The person really trusts you. Like you said, you give that person trust. So it's something that actually, there's like this Christian term for it, like discipling people. I really love that term. It's something I'm trying to focus on myself for, like, who can I like disciple around me? But also, have I, like, have we lived enough life to help each other? And I believe,
I think
yeah, and I believe I have. But I think those are good questions to ask. Like, so anyways.
Yeah. But the only thing we wanted to talk about was, the role of faith in here. I think that people don't often, like even people who are Christian, don't realize the power in faith to change. Like I think about this verse in Romans where it says like, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And like when Jesus spoke, he spoke about a death to self and the idea that you become a new creation.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we often talk about how even underneath all of our change is our faith. Like how your faith can spur you on. And I was thinking about this, like I think that my humility, my wisdom has often come through my relationship with Jesus. And so when like as we end this episode, like it's kind of hard to divorce the two of those things. Because I don't think you can, I think the way I've become more humble is just by like allowing God in and realizing, and he's just like put that impression on me on how little I know. Like humility is like gentleness and joy. Like these are like fruits of the Spirit. These are things that come out of faith. Or like sticking to a program. I think like there's practical elements that lots of people outside of the church do, but I was trying to find a way to explain it. Like my life has been more changed by my relationship with Jesus, who has the ability to change my desires and to change my heart more than any of these things. Like I think about my relationship with like money. Like I find that I've become a much less greedy person. Much of a less. I've become a lot less greedy. And there's been a lot of habits I did that positioned myself to do it. But the real change to my heart came through my relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And we talk about like all the practices of the faith. I think that they are really just putting you in a position for the Holy Spirit, which is God incarnate, like God's spirit, not God incarnate, but God's Spirit poured out through earth, changing your heart, changing your desires. And that is the number one way I think you can change. Like God can change your life. Like you've spoken about like depression in your relationship. Like God has freed me from a lot of things that I'll get into in other episodes. And he can do it like that. I mean, I've thought about like, how would you talk through that?
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I completely agree with you. I think the 5 things that I mentioned, the 5 things that Nate mentioned, none of them would be possible without God. Like, if you said you can give me all these 5 without God, I'd be like, I don't want it. And even when I was writing these notes, I was like, it's hard not to talk about God in these because it's not even like, there's overlap. It's like, no, none of this is possible without him changing my heart.
Yeah.
Even the depression bit you mentioned, like the freedom came from God. So he is the reason for an identity shift, the reason we can find good community or, be able to dream big. He has dreams for your life that are huge and wide, and like his thoughts for you are vast, right? And so, I think that's like the most beautiful part of my life, the most beautiful part of my story, more than anything else. And actually, I would love to share something that you said before we hit record is this redemptive health, like that redemption piece is like maybe a faith-based term. but it's like we can't talk about redemption or redemptive health without talking about God. And also, this isn't for you guys, for the men listening or whoever listening to, oh, like, okay, I'm just going to implement these 5 things. No, it's like so you could reorient your life to something greater, something better, a narrow path that God talks about. Because the broad path, the wide path, everyone's walking on. But there's like a narrow path that leads to life,
Yeah.
eternal life.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say about this is like, and I think this is hard to hear, and maybe many won't believe this, but think about like Romans 6:23, which is like, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus. And I would say that ultimately, if you're not living for Jesus, and many Christians do not live for Jesus, everything you do with these positions is ultimately for self-preservation, self-improvement, and the benefit of those that are somewhat tied to your interests. Like I think about people who everything they do is for the sake of their family. And their family literally is just like their bloodline. I would say that ultimately, like, that's what that first part is. The wages of sin is death. Like, this is just going to get you to be like a stronger version of yourself, better version. You're never going to reach the fullness that is available, because ultimately that's the price that was paid for sin, from being in divorce of God's will. And that's kind of hard for people to hear, I think. But the good news is like, but the gift of God, like by being in a relationship with Jesus, like all this stuff makes sense. Like, you know, I think about like, why do we do all these things? Why are we changing? It's like, because we want to serve others, and we want to, like, we want to be open to all of God's love and all that God has intended for us. You wouldn't get that if you're not a follower of Jesus. And you don't have access to it, which is the other part. A lot of people, like we've seen people in our lives heal other people of sicknesses, prophesy, like have knowledge about things that other people are going to. You don't have access to that if you're not in Christ. The peace that we have access to, there is no amount of mindfulness practice, there is no amount of therapy that can get you to the things that God can provide to us.
And the best part is it's completely free. It's like unconditional love, like incomparable peace, like Nate's saying, and it's yours. It's like ours for the taking, because God loves us. And he chose us first. And so that is if you're interested, or if your heart's like convicting you or pricking you, or like you just feel this nudge in your heart or your mind, it's like, oh, I want to like know more about the God that's they're talking about, or the God that has changed their life, or the God that's given us more meaning, and more clarity and more vision. Feel free to message us, DM us anytime. I would say we're open and available to talk through these things with you, and we would love to. Like it'd be our greatest honor, honestly, like more than anything else. I would say reach out to us.
And with that, we love you, and we're excited to continue along this series with you guys.
Absolutely.
The next episode is on fitness.
So stay tuned. We love you guys. See you.